The following episode may contain sensitive material, including descriptions of violence, sexual assault, or graphic descriptions of injuries to victims. If you feel you may be triggered by such material, please consider this before accessing our content. To access trauma counseling or services, please speak to a trauma specialist.
South Africa loses between 80 to 100 people per year due to lightning.
And he stands on the hill and his community pays him to chase the lightning away.
We're trying to control where the lightning happens.
Hierdie was 'n normale oggend op 13 Maart 2020. Dit het baie hard gereën. Toe het ek klaar gekry vir skool die oggend. Toe wou ek uitgaan om my guinea pigs te versorg, maar toe moes ons eers bietjie gewag het sodat die weer bietjie kan verlig, sodat dit nie so hard reën nie.
Tessa se punt is elke oggend voor sy skool te gaan guinea pigs. Maak nie saak of dit sneeu, hol of wat nie, Tessa se dogter wou guinea pigs. So ek het my gesig by die fonteintjie gaan was. Kleinste en oudste was binne in die huis besig geweest om reg te maak vir skool sodat ons kan geraai het. Op daai stadium toe ek so opgekyk het, was daar hierdie vreeslike slag geweest.
Toe het hulle nog nie eens besef dat ek geslaan is deur die weerlig nie. En toe vra mamma waar is Tessa? Toe gaan hulle uit om my te gaan soek. Toe sien hulle ek lê neer op die grond.
En daar het Tessa plat gelê, mors dood. Nie 'n puls, nie 'n hartklop nie. Die krag was af van die vorige aandstorms. Niemand se fone was basies gecharge om enige hulp te kan kry nie. Terwyl my man gegaan het om vir Tessa te gaan help, het ek begin hysteries te roep vir hulp. Ek het vir bure geroep en hulle kon my nie gehoor het nie. En nog nooit in my lewe het ek so iets beleef nie. Daar lê Tessa, papa's besig om haar terug te kry, om hartklop te kry, puls te kry, al daai goedjies, om haar net weer aan die lewe te kan kry. Terwyl papa besig is, het ek uitgehardloop by die hek, terwyl oudste en kleinste in die huis besig was, het ek na ons een bure toe gehardloop. Hulle het gekom, hulle het kom hulp gebied en gesê, Tessa is dood. Met dieselfde tyd, terwyl hulle omgekom het ek gehardloop na ons bure toe, Tanya en Jannie. So skree ek op die punte van my longe, toe besef Jannie, dit is daar's fout. Toe het hy omgekom en ek het in mekaar gesak by die hek, by Tanya. Tanya het my gevra wat gaan aan, hulle het gedink is my man. Toe het Jannie oorgevat by my man en hy het saam gekom en hulle het fisies haar probeer aan die lewe te kry. Dit was erg, want sy het net mors dood gelê. Haar vel het so grys gekleur, sy het geruik na brand. My man en Tanya en almal sê, kom bid, kom bid. En so gou as wat ons gebid het, toe die Here haar vir ons teruggebring, met 'n puls. En op daai stadium skies. Op daai stadium het een van ons community ouens, Rob Strange, het omgekom en hy het dadelik vir hulle gesê, daar's 'n puls, moenie aanhou nie, druk aan die kar en jaag. Tessa is opgeneem by Wilgers Hospitaal, waar hulle gesê het 36 ure. 18 ure, dis Tessa reg op 'n bed. Al wat sy oor het, is 'n paar ligte brandwondmerke. Toe jy by die huis gekom het, toe 'n klein sussie jou vir die eerste keer gesien het sy letterlik vir 'n uur en 'n half op haar arm gelê en gehuil. Want sy was te bly om te weet ons sussie lewe nog. Om hulle te reunite was baie emosioneel. Dit was amazing geweest om die drie sussies weer saam te gesien het na daai hele slag. Dit was one awesome. Nou almal wat daar so bederf het en om haar weer by die huis te hê nadat sy dood was one hell of a happy ending.
My name is Ryan Blumenthal. I'm a senior specialist forensic pathologist at the University of Pretoria. I'm associate professor, and my field of interest is lightning injuries. Coronapathology is the study of the pathology of trauma on the human and/or animal body. I'm fascinated by lightning and electrothermal injuries. You know, I originally thought that lightning would create what's known as crispy critters. However, we now know that the crispy critter myth doesn't exist. Lightning takes too short a time to create a crispy critter out of a victim. The findings of a lightning strike victim are actually very subtle. The findings require a knowledge of the field, and that's why I went into coronapathology, which is the study of lightning pathology on the human and or animal body.
Lightning, for me, even since an early age, has been a fascinating phenomenon. It's that thing that scares you. It happens in the middle of the night, and I think I had no intention of being a lightning researcher, but it was one of those things that happened as I progressed through my undergraduate studies, and found myself just getting more and more fascinated in the different features of lightning. By being able to reproduce something in the laboratory, we can use that as an important piece of evidence or a measurement when we are documenting a forensic investigation, whatever it might be. So from an engineering perspective, lightning protection takes two important facets. The one is protecting equipment. Equipment's pretty important. You can imagine a life support system in a hospital stopping working because of lightning is a big problem. The other angle of protection is people. And I think when it comes to people, it's very important to understand the fundamental mechanisms that are involved. Because we understand the injury mechanisms, we can help protect ourselves better.
Back in 2001, I had a very unusual case. It was an adult black female found dead in the veld. Originally, we suspected a rape homicide case. She was found lying on the ground, and this case originally aroused suspicion. When we went to the scene, there were no footprints on the scene, and unusually she had blood coming from her eardrum, and the clothing was torn and tattered. My initial suspicion was, could this be lightning? An autopsy is the biggest procedure in the whole of medicine. Do not let any surgeon tell you otherwise. An autopsy is also the cheapest procedure in the whole of medicine. Do not let anyone else tell you otherwise. An autopsy is a thorough and ancient investigation. At the end of an autopsy, there should be no questions left as to what is the cause of death. Everything is examined. There must be no stone left unturned. An autopsy, the body becomes the crime scene. Everything is examined, from the clothing to the hair, to between the toes and between the fingers. At the end of an autopsy, all questions regarding the death should be answered. In the case of lightning, it is an unnatural death. In other words, it requires and demands a medical legal autopsy. And this is why we do autopsies on lightning strike victims. At autopsy examination, there was nothing found externally on the body. However, internally, there was slight subarachnoid hemorrhage on the brain and this ruptured eardrum. She also had an unusual finding of small bubbles on the posterior aspect of the sternum. This is known as pneumomediastinum, which is a phenomenon caused by barotrauma on the posterior aspect of the sternum. We then managed to track down weather service data and found out that there was indeed a thunderstorm in that area with lightning the previous night, with light drizzle. And putting everything together, we worked out that her death was in keeping with that of lightning strike.
Die dokter het gesê, omdat ek nou gumboots aangetree, reënboots, toe het dit by my arm ingegaan en via my sy uitgegaan. Dit was die ergste pyn wat ek nog ooit in my lewe gehad het. Maar die eerste ding wat ek gedoen het toe ek by die huis gekom het, het ek dadelik my diere gaan hulle sê, ek het hulle so gemis. Daar's 2 guinea pigs wat in kraam gegaan het en hulle babatjies sou kry, maar die babatjies is dood en een van die groter guinea pigs, die ma, was dood 2 daarna.
The third mechanism of lightning injury is what's known as side flash or side splash. This is where lightning strikes an object such as a tree. A lot of the energy is dumped onto the tree and some of that energy discharges onto the person or the animal. This is what's known as the third mechanism of lightning injury.
So the third important injury mechanism to understand, or damage mechanism, is what we call side flash. This is where an object such as a tree is struck by lightning, and the resultant flow of electric charge causes a voltage to develop and a subsequent flashover, and that will happen from the tree to the object or the person nearby the tree. One of the challenging things about lightning is it can happen at a particular point but can cause damage at a remote or distant point. And if you have a look at this video here, you've got lightning very clearly striking a tree. It's pretty obvious that it struck the tree. But if you look very carefully in the corner here, you can see some sparking happening on the gate, clearly at a distance from the tree. But if you can imagine you were a person by that gate, touching that gate, you would be probably injured or possibly killed by that lightning that happened at that tree.
After having reviewed the medical literature, I found that there was minimal written upon lightning deaths, both locally and internationally. So I decided to retrospectively review all lightning deaths in South Africa. And my initial series had about 40 cases. And I found findings that were most unusual. I couldn't believe that people were finding these findings on lightning deaths. I mean, there were signs that were just totally aberrant. For example, some cases had fractured bones and some had ruptured eardrums. And so I immediately went to the literature and found an article from the same year from America. It was published in the American Journal of Forensic Medicine and Pathology by a man called Michael Cherrington, called Mountain Medical Mystery. This involved a 20-year-old male that was found dead in the mountains. He was a jogger. And obviously the differential diagnosis could be anything for a sudden unexpected death in an adult. It could be a natural underlying cause such as a heart attack. It could be hypothermia if you're up in the mountains, or it could in fact be a murder case where the body's been dumped in the mountains. So I was totally intrigued by this case. You know, an adult white male, 20 years old, goes jogging in the mountains and is found dead. And then my case of an adult black female found dead in the veld. My findings were very similar to Michael Cherrington's findings, and this inspired me to look more into lightning deaths. I then found out that there's very little written about lightning pathology in the textbooks, and there was very scant literature on the topic. So I decided to look at lightning deaths in a Southern African context. South Africa loses between 80 to 100 people per year due to lightning, and there are 7 times as many people who will be struck and survive lightning. So we can expect anywhere from 300 to 700 lightning strike survivors in South Africa per year. Death by lightning is one of the quickest deaths a human can have. You will not see it, you will not hear it. It is instantaneous. It is one of the quickest deaths you can have. Oftentimes, before someone is struck and they survive, one hears the story of the hair going up on the back of their neck or the hairs going up on the top of their head. Sometimes those around them see sparks coming off their neck and head. This is what's known as St. Elmo's fire. One sees St. Elmo's fire also in ships. One gets sparks coming off the masts of ships out at sea. This is known as St. Elmo's fire.
So lightning research is certainly alive and well in the world at the moment. There's a lot of activity, South Africa, Brazil, Japan, the United States and Europe, as we make better and better measurements and as we explore the climate of Mother Earth more and more. Lightning is closely linked to climate, and better understanding of lightning and how often it occurs helps us understand what might be happening with the climate. One particularly interesting piece of research that has been discussed from time to time is the use of lasers and triggering lightning. So we're not trying to stop lightning or necessarily prevent lightning, we're trying to control where the lightning happens. And this is a very key part of lightning protection. We can never stop lightning, but we can certainly shape or change where it happens, and that is how we protect people. I think one of the things about lightning research for me as an engineer is we love making a difference. We love protecting people, the equipment, and that's a very fulfilling research field to be involved in.
Every culture on earth has its myths and beliefs with regards to lightning. In South Africa, different cultures have different beliefs. So, for example, some cultures will believe that lightning can be sent to steal or kill someone. Some cultures believe that certain trees, such as syringa trees, attract lightning, and they will cut down the syringa trees on their farm. Some cultures believe that dolerite, blow clip, attracts lightning. This may or may not be true, but blow clip areas do receive a significantly increased amount of lightning strikes. Some people believe that mirrors in their home will attract lightning, or that the color red will attract lightning. Some people even have the erroneous belief that their blood group will attract lightning. These are all myths. Lightning is a totally anonymous random killer. Everyone is at risk outdoors when thunder roars.
The churches in Europe sent missionaries to Africa to convert people here to Christianity. One of those missionaries was Bishop Henry Callaway, and he went to stay with some Zulu tribes in KwaZulu-Natal, what is today KwaZulu-Natal. And he wrote down a lot of interesting things about the things that he discovered at that time that people believed in. And one of those stories was about heaven herds. And the job of a heaven herd, just like a cattle herd, has to chase cattle into the kraal and whistle and chase cattle out of the kraal. So the job of the heaven herd was to chase the lightning away when lightning came close to their village.
When I see the lightning coming, I point in the other direction so that it does not strike my neighborhood, but strike somewhere else. In that way, I'm able to protect myself, my family, and my entire neighborhood.
And I thought that those stories maybe only happened in the olden days, but I went on a field trip to Hlabisa in KwaZulu-Natal, and there I met a modern-day heaven herd. He's also a traditional doctor, and when bad weather comes their way, he's got long antelope horns that he fills with muti, and he puts on a special robe, and he stands on the hill, and his community pays him to chase the lightning away. I asked him whether it worked, and he said yes, it must work because his community still pays him to do that, and they've never been struck by lightning.
What keep you or prevent you from harm from lightning. And just like there's the misconception that the tires in the car protect you, or your shoes may provide protection, it's not that simple. And I think a simpler way of thinking about that is, if this lightning that has traveled the best part of 2-3 kilometers from a cloud all the way to the ground, do you think it's really going to be worried about 2 or 3 inches worth of distance? So the long and short of it, the tires in the car aren't what protect you. It's the metal structure of the car that keeps you safe, and a car or a bus is a good place to be in a storm. Similarly for shoes, it's not going to really change or protect you in the grand scheme of things.
No place is safe in a thunderstorm. The rain is not dangerous. The lightning is what will kill you. So when thunder roars, go indoors. If you hear it, clear it. There's the 30-30 rule. If there's 30 seconds between flash and bang, you're at risk. And you should wait 30 minutes after the last rumble before you go outdoors again. You do not want to be on top of a high mountain. You do not want to be under a tree. If you caught unawares in a thunderstorm, seek shelter directly under Eskom wires. That would probably be a safe place, or under a bridge. But give yourself sufficient time to get to a safe structure.